Welcome to Wrestling Uncensored. I am Dave Simon. He is Johnny North. We are here talking professional wrestling with you. And we are here, of course, on your radio. We are here on your podcasting device, be it iTunes, Google Play, anywhere you get your podcasts. And, of course, also on the YouTube channel.
Hey, yo, I better. All right, hey, it's Dave and Johnny live.
Live.
What's up, man? I'm Dave, he's Johnny. Hey, everybody.
Yes. What's up, everybody? We're watching Survivor Series. This is our Survivor Series watch along.
Oh.
And Daniel Bryan's wrestling the Fiend right now. Whoa.
How about that?
Hey. Smacking it. Smack. We're smacking it. Welcome to the Smacking It with Dave. We're smacking each other. Hit me again. Woo! All right. Almighty. Welcome to Dave and Johnny Live. I'm Dave, and he's Johnny.
And we're not quarantined yet, right? Or...
No, this isn't the quarantine.
Who were we talking? We're talking about the Prime Minister, right?
Yeah, well, he's quarantined. The Prime Minister of the country's quarantined because his wife has coronavirus.
Yeek.
I mean, good God Almighty, this thing is taking over. Obviously, we're going to be talking about it here on the show. We're still doing a show. A lot of people stopped doing shows. A lot of people are running out of stuff to talk about, but there's still a bunch of stuff going on in professional wrestling because the pro wrestling world doesn't stop. At least it hasn't stopped.
Doesn't die. Wrestling goes on.
Somehow,
that's right.
Wrestling has continued. We saw AEW this week. You know, they did a show on Wednesday night.
They'll do a show next week, too.
But Thursday was kind of when everything went down, right? Thursday was when everything hit the fan and everything kind of, the NBA found a player that had coronavirus, so they suspended the season. Tom Hanks.
Fred was on the ball with that.
Tom Hanks had coronavirus.
When Tom Hanks fell, that's when it all went to hell.
Man, once Tom Hanks gets coronavirus, you know shit's real.
When I used to be texting into you, the phone would fall over because you had it just leaning against the cup or whatever, and Johnny would be like, "Someone keeps texting in." But you've come so far, like, and he's really are. Like, I mean, I remember from back in the day listening. You've come just like you've really evolved. You know what I mean? You haven't just like you're like a mixed martial artist now. You started off with a bit of jiu-jitsu and then you got added little bits to your bow, and he's really are. It's like I'll never ever claim to be a knowledgeable person when it comes to wrestling. I like it. I love watching it, but I wouldn't know. I know probably a lot more about MMA than I would wrestling, but I just love it. I love it, the innocence of it. I love just how everyone else who loves it, they have the same kind of personality. Everyone kind of has that kind of. They haven't lost a bit of their childhood. I think that's important. If you love wrestling, you're keeping that little bit in there. You don't have to become boring just as you get older. You can still like a little bit of something like that. I think that's what everyone who just comment on this show does. I think that's what you guys have. I think it's a brilliant thing. But it's only going to get bigger.
AJ.
This is only going to get bigger. I know it is. Like this has come to the studio here.
Look at all that.
That was cool.
What an intro.
Hey, that was a good intro, right?
Cheers.
Welcome, everybody.
Cheers, whoever made that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
We love it.
It's
We're
fantastic.
live. Yes, indeed. It's Wrestling Uncensored time. Vince McMahon documentary drops on Netflix. Jey Uso, new Intercontinental Champion. And we're a week away from Bad Blood. Bad Blood, Johnny. Anytime we say Bad Blood, anytime I say Bad Blood, I think of The Undertaker. Because I think he was the original Bad Blood in your house. He was back in October 1997. It was Bad Blood. The first ever Hell in a Cell match. Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. So every time we talk about that pay-per-view, or that PLE, as it's now called, taking place next week in Atlanta, I think of the Dead Man.
And I think when they did Bad Blood a second time, they also had a Hell in a Cell match too, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Triple H and Kevin Nash in Hell in a Cell.
Oh, we're getting new members here. Awesome. Great start to the show. Yeah, I don't know about you. Like, Bad Blood, it was a good pay-per-view back in 97. I think that one 2003, not the best. So we're 1 for 1. Let's see what happens next week. I will be there for that one.
There was another Bad Blood, John.
What's the other one?
This is the fourth Bad Blood.
Fourth Bad Blood. Was there an NXT one as well?
No, 2004. Bad Blood.
Did Shawn and Triple H have a... There we go. Okay, yeah. Not a memorable one.
Hell in a Cell. I bet you it was good.
No, if I remember correctly, it's like this is where they got to stop doing this feud. Actually, jump the shark. I think on that one. If you watch it again, remember it. It's not that good.
Chris Benoit defeated my brother Kane at Bad Blood 2004.
I think it was an okay match from what I remember. Not great, but it was okay.
Eugene defeated Jonathan Coachman.
Yeah, that's kind of rough. That's rough, man. Yep. Good sound effect for that one. Spot on.
Eesh. Randy Orton defeated Shelton Benjamin to win the to defend the Intercontinental title. Randy Orton at Bad Blood 2004. Not booked, I don't think, for Bad Blood 2024. That's too bad. 20 years of Randy at Bad Blood. No Randy.
Though I think he was the last one to defeat Drew McIntyre inside the Hell in a Cell match, which Drew will be competing in.
Mm-hmm. But you had an opportunity to have somebody who was at Bad Blood 2004 wrestle at Bad Blood 2024. They didn't take it. Another guy who wrestled at Bad Blood 2004, Chris Jericho, unavailable. Chris Benoit, obviously, unavailable. Benoit wrestled twice on this show? Benoit and Edge defeated La Resistance by disqualification in a tag team title match in the opener. And then in the co-main, Benoit beat Kane to retain the World Heavyweight title. A lot of Benoit on Bad Blood 2004. Maybe they don't want to revisit that one. Let's not talk about that one too much. Right?
Well, we are probably going to talk about Chris Benoit a little bit later, but not for that reason.
Chris Benoit. Yes. The Vince documentary dropped on Netflix. Why wait, Sean? I don't want to wait. You know, we saw SmackDown, we saw Raw, we saw Dynamite this week. We saw all the wrestling, but we also saw the Vince documentary. Well, I did. You didn't watch it. You watched the first episode and then you tapped out. I watched all 6 episodes. I thought we were going to talk about the whole thing. I thought we had to break it down on the show. I thought that was your whole plan. But Johnny just Not as prepared as I thought you'd be. Shock.
Well, once you watch like 3 hours of Raw, Dynamite, and then SmackDown, you're like, it's hard to watch another 6 hours of something. So after an hour, I was like, oh, I'll just check out the highlights. And really, the highlights was enough because after that Owen thing, I was pretty pissed with Vince. So I didn't really want to watch anything else after that.
Well, you also spent your time playing the new Zelda game that I also have that I haven't played because I was watching the Vince thing, trying to prepare for the Wrestling Uncensored universe because I wanted to give them a proper breakdown. I was being unselfish. But you, selfish man over there playing your video games, playing the new Zelda game, we both have it. Echoes of Wisdom, we both have it. But I haven't played. My son has played. I haven't touched it. I haven't done anything. You have ventured into Hyrule, doing this and that, solving puzzles, doing all sorts of stuff, playing the games while I was watching Vince McMahon. I was watching Vince, pal. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Well, it would have been nice if they would have just stopped lying throughout pretty much the whole show. Like, that's something that really turned me off from the whole documentary. Or how they spin how things actually happen. I mean, even if it's not WWE made, they still like to have their own little spin on things.
I mean, they covered all the major incidents in the history of the WWE. It was kind of like a history of the WWE. How Vince came to be, and then how it evolved, and all the scandals that have hit the WWE over the years. The steroid trial, the Ring Boy scandal, the Wendy Richter screw job, the Bret Hart screw job, the Owen Hart death, Chris Benoit's death, and many more, And then they got eventually towards the 5th or 6th episode about the Vince sex scandal things, the payouts, the lawsuits, Janelle Grant, and everything that we know about that. I didn't learn anything new watching this show. I didn't really learn anything about Vince that I didn't already know as far as the big WWE scandals went. I think the most interesting part about this was getting a better feel for the Vince-Shane relationship and the McMahon family dynamic. Because Vince seemed pretty rough on Shane. Paul Heyman recounts a story where Vince and Shane are arguing about an idea, a creative idea, and Vince is like, well, you're going to have to kill me to do it. Take this knife, and he gives him a knife, and he's like, stab me here, and if you do it, then good, and if you don't, then I know you're not strong enough to do it, because I would have done it, or I'd have stepped over my father to get it done. And it's like, really dark, berating. It's like, what's he supposed to do? Kill you? Like, what are you talking about? Berating his son for not murdering him over a wrestling creative idea. Just crazy stuff that you kind of suspected about Vince, but hearing it told and hearing Shane and just seeing Shane talk about Vince, you go, oof. Shane talking about how he's got to throw himself off a Hell in a Cell to get a hug from his father, to get a feeling from his father that he loves him. He's got to put his body through ridiculous stunts and torture in order to feel his father's love. That was dark. That, And also Vince talking about his own father, saying, he's trying to put a positive spin on it. Vince doesn't want you to think that it was rough for him or whatever. He thinks he wants to be the hero in every story. He wants to get over in every instance. But you can't help but feel bad for Vince when he says, like, my father, like, I got to love him. So that was great for me because I had him in my life and I got to love him. I'm not sure if he loved me, but that's not really important because I had him and I got to love him. It's like, you're not sure if he loved you. What do you mean? And, like, Vince did not have a good relationship with his father, didn't meet his father until he was 12 years old. And this is all stuff that we have known about Vince, but to see Vince question about it and to see Vince talk about it, it's like, it's rough. You feel for Vince. I think this documentary took it easy on Vince. I know that the feeling is like, ooh, they went rough on Vince, but like really, there's some things that they could have said about him that are true that they didn't cover. Things that are known about him. They didn't cover Eddie Guerrero's death at all. A 38-year-old man who dies in a hotel room while he's working for your company on the road, traveling as a wrestler, just dies in a hotel room. I mean, and they also didn't really talk about all the other deaths on his watch. All the other wrestlers that died. Like, they didn't list off all the guys that aren't here anymore. They didn't really talk about how the culture that Vince oversaw led to the deaths of dozens, if not hundreds of guys. I didn't hear one mention of Mr. Perfect, of Rick Rude, of Road Warrior Hawk, of the British Bulldog. I didn't hear a single word about these guys, of Lance Cade. I didn't hear any of that. So I think that they took it easy on Vince. They covered what we all know, the steroid trial, where he was victorious because he wasn't really selling steroids to anybody. He just had a doctor at every show that he knew was selling steroids to the wrestlers, and he just said, oh, yeah, all right. Guy was selling steroids to Vince, too. Vince knew, but he wasn't the one selling the steroids, so they couldn't catch him on that, which they were trying to do.
I mean, again, it's 6 hours. I mean, they covered a lot, though. So it's very difficult to cover everything. I think they had to hit all the high spots and then get whatever else they can. I mean, Eddie Guerrero, I mean, it's sad what happened, but compared to all the other terrible tragedies, it's not exactly the highest on the list.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot that they covered. But in the end, they kind of shined him up. They said, well, you know, whatever he's done and all, you know, good thing, good guy, bad guy. He's the great, and it was Tony Atlas saying kind of the final word on Vince. He's the greatest promoter that ever lived, and he changed the wrestling business and this and that. Creative genius in his time. I mean, I think it was a pretty accurate portrayal of who Vince is. I think that there are, you know, good and bad. And I thought they made a nice point there in the end where, you know, Vince kind of killed the idea of just straight up baby faces, straight up heels, and introduced a lot of shades of gray in wrestling, and that's kind of who he is. He's a good guy, he's a bad guy. He's kind of a tweener. You know?
Well, Triple H kind of said it too. Like, Vince is only going to let you know what he wants you to know.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he was holding back a lot of stuff, and probably for the best, given the lawsuits against him. In the end, like, we only got what Vince wanted us to see, and not the whole truth, sadly.
Triple H isn't going to give you the whole truth. Vince isn't going to give you the whole truth. But, my God, when he's talking about, you know, I'm thinking about a lot of different things right now. My brain is, it's like computers. This one's thinking about business. This one over here is thinking about something fun, something sexual. I'm like, what the? You're like an old creepy guy, and you're talking about sexual. I'm a sexual be. Like, there was a lot of him talking about being sexual, and I was like, I've never said this about myself. I wouldn't say this about myself publicly. It seems rude. You know, it's like, why does he say these things? Especially as like a freaky old man. Like, just in his interviews where he's trying to look normal, he seems unhinged. Like, he's trying to, you know, only show you what he wants to show you. But, like, what he's showing you is still kind of like, what's going on here, pal? And all that defense about Vince with the women on camera and making out with them and touching their bodies and all the things that he has done, Vince's defense is, it was a character I was playing, pal. And it's like, bitch, you wrote the lines. It's not like you're cast in a movie and the script is written and a director is there telling you to do it. You're the director, you're the writer, you're the owner of the whole thing, and you're booking yourself to do these things to your employees, not with your employees, Vince, to them on television. Just because you're doing it on camera doesn't make it okay. Just because you're playing a character that only Vince said, Mr. McMahon is not me, I'm a different guy. Everybody else, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Undertaker, yeah, it's the same guy pretty much. Stone Cold, same guy, hell yeah. I mean,
well, didn't Trish say like Linda was super cool with it? So I mean that made it okay, right?
sure. I'm sure Linda's cool with more than that.
Well, nowadays, who knows? But back then, apparently, it was okay. I mean, she was involved in the storylines too.
They have lived separate lives for years, decades. They're married only as a business partnership. That's pretty
I
clear.
thought that was something that was interesting though about WrestleMania. How it wasn't their own money that they put in for that. Like that was interesting.
It wasn't?
It was the company's profits they used. Like that was
Right.
kind of interesting.
It was everything they had, though.
But still, like that's kind of new information ish.
I don't know. I thought we knew that. I mean, it
Well,
was it was the story that we all know. It's like, Vince, you know, he bought up his father's business. He took the territories. He created WrestleMania. He got Hulk Hogan. Hogan became huge. It's just like, yep. We know.
Well, as much as people hate on Dave Meltzer, I think it was helpful to have him actually in this because it helped combat against when WWE would be like, oh, it was like this. Well, actually, no, it was like this.
Yeah. Well,
they needed that.
Meltzer is a wrestling historian, you know, who's good on camera. You know, why not? Why not use Dave Meltzer in that role? I thought it was really funny that I was watching a Netflix documentary that was supposed to be all serious and, you know, and I'm just watching Meltzer and Heyman talk. I'm just like, all right, guys, what is this? Is this like, who is making, is this Netflix or High Spots? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
I mean, they've never looked better. I mean, even Linda looked really good. So, like, it was
Linda
impressive.
looked fantastic. Linda looked great.
It was
Vince
really
saw
well put
Linda
together.
and was like, hey, pal.
I hope not pal, but okay. Like,
Let's get back together, Linda. You're looking great.
but we said this off air, I think. The whole, like, that about Vince being, like, the same guy as Mr. McMahon, I think that's going to hurt. Like, the lawyers for Janelle Grant have already mentioned, like, you know, this is proof that Vince is a horrible person, and they're apparently going to use that in the lawsuit, I think.
Wrestling promos?
Well, just what we saw about them talking about that, about Vince.
Oh, the interviews.
Yeah.
Of people saying how, yeah. I mean, there's stuff that they could use, I'm sure. I mean, Vince is under investigation. I don't know what's ever going to come of that. I don't know if anything's going to come of that. But they glossed over a lot of things in this thing because there's so much to dive into. And I feel like a lot of people are going to learn a lot about Vince and get to know, the whole Vince story by watching this. But for you and me, John, like there's nothing, I mean, you and I have studied Vince forever, very closely. And there's so many stories. Like there's nothing I love more than a good Vince story because he's such an odd character and has presided over the pro wrestling business like a god for our entire lives up until, the past couple years, right? He's been the god of wrestling. If you could get Vince's approval, if you could get Vince to like you in wrestling, you were made. And that was the case for over 40 years.
Oh, you can't deny the effect that he's had on wrestling without a question. It's just the main things that really stood out for me. I mean, we can relive Survivor Series 97 over and over again, but it's interesting how Vince likes to put himself as like the victim in all that whole situation when truly like he's the one who put it all like together in a sense. Like he gave it the final send off for Triple H to be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's screw over Brett.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, like that was beautiful. The way Brett would talk about that uppercut, like I just had to get that uppercut, and Taker's like, I don't know how he got that in there, but he got that in. Oh well,
damn right.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
take that, Fred.
Vince deserved it. Vince deserved to take that punch from Brett. Shawn Michaels deserved to take a punch from Brett as well. So did Triple H. Those guys were in on it. And, reliving the screw job pissed me off all over again. That was well done because it made me mad. It made me pretty mad. The fact that they did that to Bret Hart, the fact that Shawn Michaels did that to another wrestler is pretty despicable. The only other person in that whole documentary who was in the ring for a screw job finish was Fabulous Moolah. And, she screwed Wendy Richter to take the women's title off of her. And we all know about Fabulous Moolah, who, had control of all the women wrestlers at the time. All the promoters would go to Moolah to book the women wrestlers because they were like attractions. They weren't regularly booked. It was like, we want a women's match. Where could we get lady wrestlers? They would call Moolah because she had a stable of women. And they would go and wrestle, and they would get paid to wrestle, and then they would also get paid, and they were expected to do other favors for the promoter and whoever else Moolah had agreed to pimp out their services to. This was the kind of person Fabulous Moolah was. An exploiter, a human trafficker. And, of course, she had no problem doing a screw job to Wendy Richter. She'd done much worse to her fellow wrestlers. How about Shawn Michaels? That's the company that he's in. That's the kind of despicable human being that would do that to one of their fellow wrestlers, where you're supposed to have their safety in your hands. You're supposed to be able to trust the guy that's picking you up, not to dump you on your head, break your neck, not to screw you over, not to take the promoter side over one of the so-called brothers. Brother. If it's a brotherhood, is that how you treat your brother? I wouldn't do that to my brother. I don't know, John. Would you do that to another wrestler? I don't think you would.
I mean, you've been mean to your brother in the past, but Lately, you've been okay, I guess. But
I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that.
no, I mean, the thing is, Brett kind of knew that Sean was kind of a weasel in a sense, and that's why he tried to make sure like Earl was there to back him up. But unfortunately, they got to Earl too, so that screwed everything up. I mean, in the end, it's terrible what happened, but I think Brett, he made the best of the situation. Like, he's going down, he's taking Vince down with him. That's what he did.
That's right.
I had no problem with that.
Yeah.
The thing that made me mad was the Owen Hart stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's tough to relive that stuff. And just the way, to me, Vince is so cold talking about how, like, oh, this happened. Well, the show had to go on. You know, like, people don't know that he's dead. So the show should go on. I mean, people got paid their monies for this. Like, just no care whatsoever. And, like, I couldn't believe that. Like, after all this time, like, no emotion, nothing whatsoever. Doesn't feel bad about what happened. Show just has to go on. And, like, oh, if it was Shane, it was me. Show should still go on. Cold human being. Like, I feel bad for Owen's family, for the Hart family, if they had to watch that. And how sick and disgusted they must be.
Here's the thing on that, though, John. I don't think he's lying.
No, I don't think he is, but damn cold. Super cold.
Yeah, but do you see how he treats Shane?
Right.
I mean, I think if Shane was lying dead in the ring, the show would go on. I think if Vince was lying dead in the ring, he'd want the show to go on. Like, I don't think Vince is mad that the WWE is going on without him. I think he's happy that it's going on. And I think what Paul Heyman said about him was very true. Vince doesn't own the wrestling business. The wrestling business owns Vince McMahon. And he has been in it and given everything to it for his entire life. And I think there's a really interesting point to that where he's been so in it and obsessed with it for so long. It overcame him in a way.
Oh, I felt like he kind of fought against the wrestling business because he didn't like wrestling. He was trying to change into something else. But, I mean, in the end, that's what you have. It's a wrestling show. Like, you can try to camouflage it. You can try to put all the beautiful lights and the great screen everywhere. And we're doing this, we're doing that. But in the end, it's wrestling. You can avoid talking about wrestling. You can avoid talking about the moves, but in the end, that's what it is. And he couldn't hide that.
Well, he's still in the wrestling business. He knows that. Like, it's sports entertainment and whatever, but, you know, I mean, there's still, you know what I mean? Like, it's still a ring, there's still ropes. Like, he's still a wrestling guy who's given everything. Who is that... Like Paul Heyman said, Vince has only been in one monogamous relationship in his life, and that's with the professional wrestling business. Very telling.
He took it.
Heyman was very interesting in the documentary. Said some very revealing things about Vince.
Well, I think at that point, Vince was no longer really the head of WWE at that point, right? They had already sold it at that point.
When Heyman was interviewed, it seemed like it from how candid he was about Vince.
Well, you've seen that more with Heyman, I find, in his interviews now. Like, he's a lot more open than he used to be because I think he has more freedom to say what he wants. Where I think a lot of people would be hesitant on what they say about Vince. Now it's like it's open season.
Heyman's thoughts about Vince are very interesting because he's been around him for so long in so many different ways. You know? Like as a rival promoter in a way with ECW, And then whatever business relationship he started there when he was still running ECW with Vince, and then when he came in and was doing commentary work and as a manager and backstage and creative and running this and running that and leaving and coming back. Heyman's had a very long, interesting journey with Vince. And, you know, it's a different perspective that he has compared to most, I would say. And Heyman is another one of these guys who I think the only monogamous relationship he's ever been in is with the professional wrestling business. I think Heyman is very much like Vince, where he is 24/7 pro wrestling. I think Heyman is in it always, constantly.
Well, he was out for a little bit, wasn't he, though?
I think even when he was out, he was still in a lot of ways. Can you imagine Heyman not thinking about wrestling at all? Come on, man.
Well, I think in that period of time when he was kind of out, I think he was just Brock's manager at that point, wasn't he? Like, I think he wrote Brock's book, and I think maybe he was doing some appearances for Brock, help setting them up, and that was it. But yeah, I guess in a sense, yeah, he kind of was, but Brock was on the outs at that point too.
But Heyman's he's pro wrestling forever. He's given his life to it. And he's got an interesting perspective on Vince McMahon, and he's seen him up close. And I enjoyed him on this documentary. It was an enjoyable watch. I liked it. It was interesting. I didn't learn a ton, but, I didn't expect to. I was kind of waiting for, like, a shocker interview. Somebody you didn't think was going to talk, that was going to say some things, and there was nobody that was a surprise. Nobody where I went, whoa, I can't believe this person's talking.
Well, I think some people would say Tony Atlas saying, like, Pat Patterson touched my pecker. Like, I think some people would be shocked by that, but I don't think we're shocked by that. But
no, I'm not sure if it happened either.
But I'm not surprised they brought up the Pat Patterson allegations. Because that's, again, part of the Ring Boy story. It's part of the legacy.
Yeah. It's part of the controversies of the WWE. But the fact that they got Tony Atlas to talk so much on the show was kind of like, really? Why?
The guy who had the most interesting sound bites. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, because he's going to say whatever.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it lacked credibility there. When he's the only guy kind of saying real negative stuff about Vince, you go, okay, but it's coming from Tony Atlas. His history with women is not particularly great. I don't know if he's some great authority on morality, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to disparage Tony Atlas. I'm just saying, like, he's the only guy they had to really kind of say things about Vince. Everybody else was pretty positive about Vince that they interviewed.
Well, Tony and Brett. I think Brett was also very candid.
Yeah, Brett was a little negative, but everybody else was trying to put a positive spin on everything.
They're trying to be nice. I mean, respectful, I think, Bruce Pritchard, obviously, I mean, he's friends with Vince, so he's going to put over Vince.
Yeah, he loves Vince. Bruce Pritchard's still around in the WWE, too. And like Ronda Rousey said, if Bruce Pritchard is still around, Vince is still running the show with Bruce as his puppet.
And a lot of what he said, he kind of just reconfirmed a lot of what Vince was saying anyways, too. So he didn't really go against Vince a lot of what Vince was talking about.
He never will. He's Vince's puppet. He never will. They wanted to interview Medusa and Jim Ross. Oh. Yeah, JR would have been interesting. I think JR is another guy who has a very good perspective on Vince McMahon. He's been around him a lot. Like, I wanted this documentary to have John Laurinaitis telling all. You know, being like, screw the lawsuit. I'm telling all. I'm going to say Vince made me do all that stuff, and I'm telling Netflix.
Be ruffling Brian's family, possibly.
It would have been so crazy. Like, that's what I was hoping for. You know, or Bryan Danielson going like, all right, I'm going to tell some stories here. Or CM Punk going like, fuck it. You know? There was none of that. There was like Austin, Taker, Michaels, Trips, Hogan, all guys that are going to be positive about Vince. Cody, no Roman? What's up with that?
Maybe
Rock.
they knew ahead of time.
Yeah, but like, they just interviewed all people that were going to be nice about Vince. I wish Piper was still alive. He would have been fucking incredible on this thing.
Probably, but he said it in the past. Like, I remember, like, when they used to Piper's Pit on SmackDown, he got in Vince's face, and Vince got mad. Legit.
Yeah. A lot of the guys that could really say some things aren't alive anymore. You know? Piper, Dusty.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Ole Anderson, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Stu Hart. You know what I mean?
I don't know if Stu would have said anything that negative, though. Like,
They should have interviewed Bruce Hart on this thing. Would have been fantastic.
well, you've talked to Bruce before.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. But you know, I don't know. I wanted more women interviewed. Like, I wanted Christy Hemme on this thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I get you.
wanted Gail Kim on this thing. You know, like, give me some perspective from some women that worked in that era other than Trish Stratus, who, you know, no offense, is still in good standing with the company and isn't going to ruffle any feathers and was pretty cool. Vince was making out with a lot of ladies on that TV, and Trish was the only one interviewed. They didn't get Sable. They couldn't get Sable. They couldn't get Sable, I bet.
Probably not, yeah.
Yeah, and we all know why. We're all thinking it. We're all thinking it, which is horrible. Are we all thinking the same thing, John? Because Brock wouldn't let her? Is that what we're thinking?
I mean, Brock, for some reason.
Brock, yeah. No. I don't know what's going on with Sable, but ever since she married Brock, she's disappeared. It's like she doesn't exist. Is she alive?
Maybe. Well, she has a kid. They have a kid together, no? Like at least one, maybe
when's
two.
the last time you saw Sable?
I think some fan was trying to get a photo with Brock, and he said no, and she was there. So she still exists in this
I'd
world.
like a photo with Sable. It's like a photo with Bigfoot at this point. She's alive.
I'm sure there's other wives. I'm sure if you just hang out a lot of WWE shows, I'm sure you'll find a lot of wives you don't see anymore. Michelle McCool.
Yeah, but I wanted Sable on this thing. Obviously, she's not going to be on it because Brock is accused of some awful shit in the documentary. And also, where does she stand on all that awful shit Brock's accused of? How's she feeling? I mean, there was the whole sexual harassment stuff, and then she was brought back to, like, in the documentary, they're like, she left the company, she sued for sexual harassment, then she came back, and then she was, like, sexually harassed on TV by Vince, and no explanation as to why that happened. They didn't explain that. They're just like, yeah, and then she came back. And Vince is like, I don't recall the details. What I recall is she came back to work. It's like, okay. So we're just going to let that slide? They just let that slide because to this day, it's still not clear why any of that went down.
I think JR had mentioned that in one of his old podcasts. He said money was the main thing. She wanted money. So that's why she came back.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, the documentary was lacking some, like, just knockout interviews where you go, ooh, shit. Sable's talking. Christy Hemi's talking. Candice Michelle is talking. Layla is talking. Give me some of these women that you don't see anymore. That they don't bring back. And some of us who have been watching for many years, who know that they were all prominent figures, just as prominent as some of the ones that they do bring back. You wonder why? And why isn't Netflix talking to them? I mean, these are the people that I wanted to hear from a little bit more. I would have liked to have heard from another woman that worked for the company other than Trish Stratus, who I love, no disrespect. I'm just saying. Lita's not interviewed, even. You know?
I mean, I think Lita would just be like Trish, right? She's still in good standing with the company, comes
Sure.
back every now and then. So,
But wouldn't you have liked to have heard from just let's say Christy Hemme, for example. Maria Kanellis, maybe. I think
that'd be interesting. Yeah, maybe.
I think Maria has some things to say. I think she has some valid points to make. I think a lot of the women that work for the company in the early 2000s should have been contacted for this show. They were not.
Well, it leaves it open for Dark Side of the Ring to possibly do a Vince episode then, right?
They need to do a Dark Side of Vince series. I mean, this could have been... This could have gone on for years, this documentary. Like, you could have multiple seasons of Vince. The Vince story and all the things that he's done.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if they could possibly do another season if they want, sure. I'm sure people would watch it just as much again.
Yeah. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying there are stories, there are people, there are things that were not covered. It was an overview, but it definitely felt like they were making a triumph piece about Vince McMahon. And then public opinion turned, so they had to kind of shift it a bit, but it still had the shell of this is the story of how Vince made the WWE and changed wrestling. But they kind of added some editing and slanted it where it's like, but he's a dick. You know? Like, you could kind of tell, like, oh, this show was half made with a positive spin, but then they had to kind of shift it because they can't make it that positive.
Well, it's better it came out than didn't come out, because Vince apparently didn't want it to come out at all. So I'm glad that people at least got a chance to see it. Again, maybe it didn't give us anything major news-worthy elements, but for non-wrestling fans, at least, more people and just we're usually just watching Netflix for the sake of, well, check the show out. More people will be more aware of who Vince is now.
Ryan Katz says, I wonder if none of them wanted to talk to Netflix. I wonder if they just all had NDAs and couldn't talk to Netflix. I think non-disclosure agreements is why a lot of these people weren't on the show. That would be my guess. Jason Pete says Stacy Keibler might have something to say. Possibly. I don't know if she would. I don't know if she would. Jason says they literally didn't grab anyone who had real fallouts with Vince. Except for Brett.
Yeah.
Say that's true.
Bischoff, kind of.
Kind of. But yeah. Nothing major. But of the people that had real fallouts with Vince, like, who didn't come back? You know?
That's a good
Everybody
point.
comes back.
Well, Macho Man never came back. You always bring up Macho Man.
Yeah, well, he's dead. We can't talk to Macho Man.
Well, they had their chance. They could have done it many times. They didn't want to do it. So that's Vince holding a grudge.
I'm saying they should. I mean, if Macho was still alive, his story would have been interesting. They didn't, talk about how Macho Man and Stephanie McMahon, possibly the rumors of all that, and like that wasn't talked about.
I mean, it doesn't it's a rumor, Again, what's it really to go off of? Unless there was a good clip or something, there's not much to go off of. Just there's hearsay.
Isn't there a clip of Lanny Poffo saying, "I don't know, but I think that's between my brother and
Well, you'd have to go back to an old Wrestling Uncensored clip, I think, possibly.
Maybe.
But no one's dug that up yet. So
dig it up, brother. It's out there. I'm telling you, it's out there. Shout out Angelo Contagonis in the chat. Jason Pete, members of the team over at join.ringsidereport.net. CSL Lorne as well. Thank you for joining us here on a Friday night. So the Vince documentary dropped. We watched it. Well, I watched it. John saw the first episode and had enough. He had enough. I think you're good.
Well, again, saw a lot of the big points of the show. I mean, the Owen thing, I don't know, man. That still gets to me a lot. Like when you see Jeff Jarrett cut that promo, like that's heartbreaking stuff, man. That's one of the worst things ever.
Yeah.
And the fact that his blood is on the ring, and they just keep wrestling, and it's like, oh, whatever. I can't believe how cold Vince is about it to this day. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's always tough to relive that, to see all that.
And the Benoit thing too, like, oh, it wasn't steroids, like he just went crazy, like what?
Well,
Like,
I mean, his brain, CTE, whatever.
Well, wasn't there something about CT doesn't exist or something they tried to put out for the show or something?
Stone Cold said that.
Okay.
Stone Cold said he didn't believe in CTE, but that was just Stone Cold saying that. I mean, who knows? I mean, I think doctors and people that research that stuff would know better than Stone Cold Steve Austin, but I don't know. Should we trust those people? Stone Cold said don't trust anyone, including doctors and researchers, I think. Anyhow, John, what about Jey Uso? He's the new Intercontinental Champion. He beat Braun Breaker on Raw. Braun Breaker drops the belt already. And Jey Uso with a huge win. That was a surprise. I didn't think that would happen.
Yeah, I didn't see this one coming whatsoever. I mean, this was Braun Breaker's second title defense, and he's already just a Monday Night Raw out of nowhere. It's not the PLE. It's not the last Raw before PLE. It's just a Raw that happened, and he lost. I mean, I thought the match was good. It made sense in a way because Jey Uso's super over. I've always said that. Like, it's crazy how over he is right now. I mean, it makes sense to make him a champion. I just didn't see it happening right now, but good for him. The finish, I thought, was lacking a little bit, though. Like, it wasn't bad, but it was just like, I don't know where, hit a spear, splash, kick out, rolls the outside, spear him to the barricade, throw him back in the ring, spear, splash again. It's just like, well, just keep hitting him with the same stuff over and over again. Eventually it's going to work. I'm like, okay, it's not bad, but it lacks something like interesting. It wasn't like, ooh, wow, it was amazing. Like, yeah, you just finally beat him.
Yeah. I mean, the match was what it was. I was just surprised when it actually ended. I was like, oh, 1, 2, 3? What? It's kind of like, I kind of expected him to kick out.
I think it also goes to show, like, just make sure, like, when you're in WWE or major wrestling organization, possibly, just have your dad complain until you finally get a title. 'Cause I guess that worked.
Is that what happened? Rikishi was complaining?
About Jay, yeah. He said Jay should go to AEW, like, because WWE wasn't treating him well.
Really?
He actually said that, yeah.
You see that picture of Shane McMahon with the Young Bucks?
I saw that. I was a little surprised at first. I'm like, is this real? And then it's like, huh. It actually, because the Bucks actually posted it. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. Like, Shane happens to be in the same place as Tony Khan at the same time, and then is the same place as the Bucks. It gets a lot of people talking. So it's intriguing. It makes you want to watch more to see what's going to happen.
I mean, come on. That would be nuts. I wonder what kind of promos he might cut if he were on TV in AEW. Shane McMahon?
I think a lot of people believe him and Moxley. Like, that. This is what this is all building up to, that Shane's going to join Moxley, or he's the one behind it all.
Ooh, that would be something. Look at that. Shane McMahon with the Young Bucks. What's up, Triple H? Hi, Paul. What's happening? What do you think Triple H thinks when he sees that?
Good for Shane. Shane's doing something. It's good for him. Like, they don't want to use Shane, obviously. Like, they could have, but they don't. So I think they're happy with whatever Shane does. He's happy with whatever he does. Like, he's family still, right?
I don't think this is a traditional family. I don't think they have traditional ideas about family here, John. I know you haven't seen the show Succession, but I feel like it's more like that.
Maybe you're right.
Pretty much what happened in Succession happened in the WWE. Except Vince didn't die. Something else happened to Vince where he had to go away. He didn't die. But the company was sold, and Triple H Wamsgans took over, and not his wife, not Shiv McMahon, and Kendall Shane McMahon, Kendall Roy Shane, old Kendall Shane, he's off by himself trying to maybe buy AEW or do something with tech. I don't know. He's trying to figure something out. But that's kind of how it all worked out in Succession in the WWE. It's weird how Triple H really Wamsgansed his way to the top. Just like Wamsgans did it on Succession.
Well, I don't think Shane holds any grudges. What happened. He was happy that he wasn't the top guy, wasn't he? Like, he didn't want to run WWE in the end. Like, in the end, he was happy doing what he was doing. He just wanted to be involved in some capacity.
Because he realized he had no chance of running it. Just wanted to be involved.
At least he got that hug in the end.
Poor Shane. Poor Shane.
Okay. Take your happy endings where you get them.
Okay, John. What else happened in WWE this week?
Not too much else happened. I remember Raw was kind of...
This was a terrible week in wrestling. Nothing happened. WWE did nothing.
Well, we started Raw off with the Judgment Day. That's never great. That's terrible usual. But Rhea's the best thing, I think, on Raw. And hopefully just runs right through Liv at Bad Blood. Because they've set that match up now, right? Now it's Dom suspended in the shark cage. And they're going to have the match. And Rhea should just completely destroy her. besides maybe Judgment Day interfering every now and then, but it should be a one-sided beatdown.
But there's still Carlito and JD McDonuts to help.
Sure, distractions, whatever, but they're not actually going to hit her because you can't hit a woman.
Yeah.
Can't be done in wrestling, so they're just there for distractions, and that'll give Liv like a second or two of offense, and then she'll get the over again, and maybe they'll do a thing where they try to throw Dom the key, but it doesn't work, and in the end, Rhea's going to win. I mean, Rhea should become the is it the world's champion? Because I said on SmackDown that Bayley's going to become the WWE champion.
Yeah.
Right.
Rhea would be the world champion, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think she takes it already? I don't know.
I mean, Liv's not much of anything in terms of a challenge, really. Like, she's so small compared to Rhea. And, like, she already got the win on SummerSlam. Like, to drag it out more, I don't think you really need to.
You might be right.
Do you want to see them wrestle? I mean, they could wrestle again with Rhea on top again, but do we really need to see them wrestle 3 more times on PLEs? Not so much.
I just don't know what Liv does without the belt. And then who does Rhea wrestle? Other than Liv.
Liv still has the Judgment Day. So you still have stuff with that. That's fine. Just do stuff, mixed tags with Dom. She can live off that for probably another year or so. Maybe more.
What about Rhea? She got no challengers.
Yeah, you're going to need to move some people. You either need like Charlotte to come back, or some people from SmackDown have to come over to Raw. Something like that's going to have to happen.
I mean, you just did a draft, and Charlotte, when she comes back, probably going to SmackDown because her husband is there.
Yeah, you got to build some people up because that's a huge problem on Raw. You're lacking, especially credible challengers for Rhea. She's the strongest person possibly in all of WWE. So to have her go against the women's division, which is at its weakest right now, it's very difficult. If anything, like you got to move Nia possibly because you build Nia up so well.
I mean, you still have Kairi Sane and Io Sky. Asuka is going to come back at some point.
Yeah, but they've been stuck in the tag division for a little bit, and I don't know about you, like it doesn't seem they're as important now because of that. Now they're just trying for the tag titles. Yeah, that's nice that they got the win over Jade and Bianca in a singles match. That's nice. But we know in the tag match that's not going to happen though.
I think you're right. Man, I'm struggling here, man.
Did you suddenly get a cold like as the show went on? Did talking about Vince like make you sick?
I think so.
Yeah, well, the Vince
sick
disease.
Hang on, I gotta get something. Just time out. You take over for a second. I'll be back.
All right. Well, as Dave tries to survive his sickness, I guess we can talk about the rest of Raw because I don't think Dave really wants to talk about what happened on Raw. What else happened on Raw that was really great? They had that whole thing with Strowman and Bronson Reed just attacking themselves over and over again, which is fine. Like I don't mind like Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman, 2 monsters fighting out, and you want to see what's going to happen with them, like when they get in a match. Problem is, they've already done this match, so you're building up to something that we've already seen. It wasn't that great, and now we're building up to a match that's going to happen again. Like it needs to be a big stipulation match, which I think it will be next week. I think it's the last monster standing match. It has potential, but in the ring, not so much. Everything out of the ring, they're great. Once they get in the ring, you lose me on that one. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that's the main event probably next week on Raw. I personally can't wait for Raw to go to 2 hours. And I know we're going to get 3 hours of Raw, 3 hours of SmackDown next year, but from October to January, it's going to be bliss watching Raw again. And not Alexa Bliss, because I don't think she's coming back right away. And is she ever coming back, by the way? Like, when was the last time she wrestled? I know a lot of people like her, and I guess she had a good look. And that's great if you like the way she looked, but what was the last time we saw? Like Bray Wyatt was still around when she was around. She hasn't wrestled a long time. Really, Angela, AEW delivered. Yeah, I mean, it was Grand Slam. It kind of almost felt like a mini pay-per-view in a sense. Grand AEW this week. Are you live now, Dave?
Yeah, sorry. Good God
Okay.
Almighty. Sorry.
No, he's not. He's not alive. He's still dead. He's still dead.
God.
He's still dead.
What?
AJ returns next week. Yeah, that's true.
Oh my
Well,
goodness. I don't know. I think all of a sudden, like, the show started making me sick. Or talking about Vince, I started getting sick. I may be sick now. I'm not sure. I hope not.
Let's not talk about Vince then.
I got like a cold or something going on all of a sudden. It just hit me when the show started. Like, not even when the show started, kind of halfway in, I was like, what's going on? Like, what? I can't breathe all of a sudden. Goddamn, pal. Maybe I'm allergic to something.
You've had COVID like what 3 times? I mean, 4th time's the charm, possibly.
Shut
Who knows?
the fuck up. Don't say that. I'm not even sick. It's just dust or something. I'm fine. Okay? I don't sell shit, John. I am never sick. I don't believe in being sick. Okay? It's not real. I want to go do jiu-jitsu tomorrow. I can't be sick. I'm trying to roll tomorrow. Going to open mat with Fred. That's how we celebrate our birthdays. Fred's birthday's on Monday. My birthday's on Thursday. Fred's like, let's celebrate our birthdays by hanging out and fighting each other at open mat. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. That's exactly how I want to celebrate my birthday. Fred, we have the same idea. Do you want to do grappling against each other and then maybe against some other guys too at open mat? I'm like, yeah. Who doesn't want to do that? That is my way of celebrating. That's how I like to party. That's how I party. By grappling. It's fun for me, John.
Well, hopefully our good buddy AJ is watching this and will know to stay away from both you guys because you'll possibly both be infected. So
no, I'm not sick. I'm totally fine. And AJ's not coming because he's scared of us. He's scared of me and he's scared of Fred. And he won't show up because he's afraid.
I believe he said
Everybody
he has a
knows.
son.
Huh?
He likes to be a father. I think that's the problem. So
What a loser.
wow, we're bashing people for being a dad now. Wow.
What a loser. Okay. Samuel
Well,
Zayn.
I look forward to seeing him Sunday, so that'll be awesome.
Everybody loves AJ. Samuel Zayn beat Ludwig the Kaiser. I thought the match
That was
was
a good
pretty
match.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very good match. Sammy took a crazy bump where I think he got pushed like into the ring announcers
Yeah.
area
Over
into
the
the
top
chair or
into the chair. Yeah. It was sweet.
yeah,
Yeah.
great bump.
Yeah, that match was very
match, too,
good.
overall. Yeah.
Sammy's very good. Kaiser's very good. They had a hell of a match, and Sammy won. And you would think, okay, now he's going to get a shot at Gunther, but Gunther's like, actually, Sammy, no match for you. And I'm like, no match? Bad Blood's like, next week, dude. When are you going to give him this match? You just beat your number one henchman. What's up?
No, I like that idea. We don't need like a bunch. We're not going to have a bunch of matches for Bad Blood. I mean, you have Survivor Series. You have Crown Jewel, I think, in November. You're going to have 2 pay-per-views in November. Save some matches for November.
How long does Sammy have to chase Gunther before he gets a match? So
yeah,
no match.
I like the
Really? No
yeah,
match?
just keep. Why not just keep chasing?
Shouldn't Adam Pearce be like, no, dude, you have to defend your belt. Sammy's the number one contender. Sorry.
It could happen. Like, how many matches are for Bad Blood right now?
5.
What, 5?
Yeah.
6 is not impossible, but they usually like to do 5. So, wait and see.
Right now we have Liv Morgan defending the women's world title against Rhea Ripley with Dominic Mysterio suspended above the ring in a shark cage, which is always dumb. Damian Priest is going one-on-one with Finn Balor. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell. Punk wasn't even on Raw this week.
Drew was.
Drew was, yeah. Nia Jax defending the WWE Women's Championship against Bayley. And Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu in a tag team match. No men's world title being defended at all, really? No Gunther and Sammy? Cody's not defending his belt? Come on.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, you already have, like, oh, what's the main event? Is it the Hell in a Cell match or is it the tag match?
Tag match.
So then you're going to throw, well, fine either way, but then you're going to throw a World Heavyweight title match in there, and that's not going to be the main event? So that might be a big reason why I think they don't want the world title to just be like an afterthought, all these other main events.
I think Rhea Ripley is winning, though. I think you're right, because looking at this card, there are 2 title matches, both for women's belts, and I don't think Nia's losing, and they're going to do a title change, so I think Rhea probably takes it here, logically, booking-wise.
Out of all the titles in WWE, and then we only have 2 titles on the line? Crazy.
Yeah. Well, we just had an IC title change. LA Knight's doing a thing where he's feuding with Carmelo Hayes and Andrade on SmackDown for some reason.
Yep.
Even though he beat Andrade, he's still involved in their thing. You know?
And we have a cool match next week, a big 3-way ladder match next week on SmackDown. It's pretty big.
Yeah, for the tag team titles, right? It'll be Tommy Tonga and his brother Loa Tonga defending the WWE Smackdown tag team belts or World Tag Team, whatever the hell. They're the Smackdown tag belts against the DIY. Huh?
I think they're just the WWE tag team titles. The other ones are the World tag team titles.
Right. And those are held by Finn and JD McDonuts on Raw, right?
Correct. Yes, because New Day didn't win.
Yes, New Day didn't win, which I do want to talk about because I think that was the best thing on Raw. But like the Woods promo with Kofi backstage was fantastic. Like Woods getting mad at Ray. Whew. Yeah, it's the Gorillas of Destiny, Tommy Tonga, Tonga Loa, defending the tag belts against the DIY and the Street Profits in a triple threat ladder match next week for the tag titles on SmackDown. Cool. Should be fun. But so the New Day didn't win because it was New Day versus Judgment Day, and the Judgment Day had their people come out, Carlito and stuff, and do distractions. And then Kofi had asked Rey Mysterio and the LWO guys to come out and help, but the help wound up backfiring. Kofi did a dive on the guys, and Woods got attacked from behind, and then he got rolled up, and then Woods lost, and Woods was upset with Kofi after the match, and Woods was mad that the LWO even got called in because he didn't even know that was the plan in the match. Wait, was that the story for this week, or was that last week?
That was the last week's story.
No,
this
that
week,
was... Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Right, but this week LWO...
They apologized for last week.
Yeah. But why did Woods had a match, though, too, right? Didn't they wrestle?
They had a match. They wrestled American Made, the Creed brothers.
Yeah.
And Woods made the mistake that he got too hot or something, or he lost his cool. And then they had a stupid thing where Gable went to punch him. He blocked it right in front of the referee. And because he blocked it, like, it's not a DQ, which is the dumbest thing in the world, but whatever. Anyways, like, American Made won the match, and Xavier was all mad about it because he cost himself the match.
Yeah, but also they were kind of outnumbered again with Gable outside the ring, right?
Yeah.
But then he got mad at Ray backstage, right? Ray was like, hey, what's going on? I was trying to help you. And Woods is like, we didn't ask for your help. And then Ray said something to Woods that Woods took as disrespect, and he's like, oh, what? You don't think I can get things done on my own? You think you can do it because you're a former world champion and Kofi's a former world champion and I'm not, and you guys think you're better than me? I liked it. And then Woods challenged Ray to a match, so it'll be Woods versus Ray on Raw. I like what's going on with Xavier Woods. I like what's going on with Kofi Kingston. And, I don't know where they're headed. But I like that there's focus on those two guys because they're very talented. So I enjoyed that. I thought the Woods backstage promo thing with Kofi and Ray was the best thing on Raw. The best.
I don't know if it was the best thing, but I like the story progression because it showed you that what Karrion Kross did in the past had an effect on Xavier, and he somewhat turned heel a little bit. Didn't turn on Kofi, but he's wrestling Ray, an ultimate babyface. So it feels like we're going down that path where Xavier might turn heel, possibly.
Is this what Karrion Kross does? He just stirs things up because he's also trying to get the Miz to wrestle Bronson Reed or whatever, trying to tell him hey, you can do it. You're the Miz.
Well, remember Sean O'Haire had this gimmick, he had the devil's advocate kind of thing. I think he's doing pretty much exactly the same thing, except he has a faction with him.
Kind of. I don't know.
Kind of, yeah.
It's a weird deal there that Karrion Kross is doing. What about SmackDown tonight? Kevin Owens is mad.
He should be.
He's mad. He's mad that Cody Rhodes is teaming with Roman Reigns at Bad Blood. Randy Orton showed up to start SmackDown tonight, cut a promo, talked about Cody, said he likes Cody, he trusts Cody, but he doesn't like that he's teaming with Roman Reigns at Bad Blood. He wants Cody to come and explain himself. Cody comes out and he says, I'm taking Roman at his word. We're trying to get rid of the bloodline. A lot of people here, a lot of fans like Roman, and all the fans chant OTC. And Randy's like, okay, I guess, maybe Roman's not so bad. And Cody's like, I'm just trying to take out these new bloodline guys because they're bad and we got to get rid of them. And Randy's like, yeah, all right, I guess. And Cody's like, but I hope it's not a problem for you, Randy. And Randy's like, nah, it's cool. And then they shake hands. And then Randy says, but it's not a problem unless you make it a problem. Not sure what that means. Maybe some foreshadowing of something more. Kevin Owens comes out, though, and Kevin seems more upset that Cody's teaming with Roman because Kevin has had more beef with Roman and he's been screwed over by the original bloodline and had a lot of problems with Roman, more so than Randy. And Kevin is mad. But before Kevin can vocalize that, the new bloodline comes out and Solo says, Cody, you better trust Roman. You better take him at his word because he's all you got. Those two guys, Randy and Kevin, they've tried to take us out. They can't. They can't take out the bloodline. They failed. You better have Roman. He might be able to help you, but he won't. You're going to lose because I'm the best. I'm Solo. And then Kevin wants a tag match. And then Cody starts going hey, why don't we make it a 6-man? And Kevin's like, no. You have your match at Bad Blood. It's me and Randy's turn to take on Solo and Fatu, and that's going to be tonight. So that's the main event. They set that up in the opening promo. Later on, Cody is in Randy and Kevin's locker room, and Kevin is like, Cody wants to talk to Kevin, and he knows Kevin's got something to say to him. He's upset, and he wants to hash it out. But Kevin's like, we do have to talk, but not right now because I got to get ready for a match. I have a tag team match in 30 minutes. Let me deal with that, and then we'll talk about it later. So Cody's like, and Kevin's like, just do it. You deal with your match at Bad Blood. We'll deal with ours. So Kevin's kind of mad, but still trying to be peaceful and trying to make peace with his friend Cody Rhodes. And Randy is trying to get between them and be the peacemaker too. Skip to the match in the main event. Solo and Fatu wind up winning, beating Randy and Kevin, when Tommy Tonga and Tongaloa come out, Cody came out too to kind of help them out. But Kevin had told Cody not to come out during the match. He's like, do me a favor, stay backstage here. I don't want you coming out during our match. But Randy says to Cody, look, if those other guys come out, it's going to be 4-on-2. It would be nice if you did come and help us. So Randy kind of going behind Kevin's back here, saying like kind of what Kofi did with Woods on Raw, right?
Well, no,
Tag
but he
team.
said he talked to Kevin about it, though.
Did he? Oh, he
Yeah,
said
he
he
said
talked
that.
to Kevin about it, but I don't know. I don't know if he did. But Cody comes out during the match to help, but it winds up backfiring, of course, because Cody takes a dive outside the ring from Jacob Fatu, and then Kevin Owens does a stunner on Solo Sikoa, and then as the ref is moving to make the count for Kevin to win, Jacob Fatu throws Cody in the ring, and Cody knocks down the ref, and all Kevin can see is Cody stopping the ref from making the count for him to win. So Kevin is upset. He gets distracted, takes a super kick, takes the fall. Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa wind up winning. And then Kevin and Cody kind of get in each other's face. Kevin's arguing with Cody. He's upset after the match. But then Randy Orton kind of gets between them, plays peace, and then Kevin hugs Cody for a moment there, and it seems like they're all good again. But there's clearly some friction and tension with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes that started with their match that is building towards something. Not sure what. But seeing Randy, Kevin, and Cody in the ring with the 4 members of the Bloodline outside the ring got me thinking, hey, it's 4-on-3. If they had Roman Reigns there, you could do some sort of War Games match at Survivor Series. 4-on-4. The Bloodline versus Roman, Cody, Randy, and Kevin could be an option.
Yeah, that makes a bit of sense. Like, for me, the finish was fine, but I think it would have been better if when Cody got thrown into the referee, it should have been a DQ.
Yeah.
And I think then there's more heat on Cody for the fact that Cody cost him the match instead of like Kevin ended up losing in the end. I think the fact that Cody, because again thrown in, boom, the referee would ring the bell because of Cody. I think there would be more on like, oh, Cody screwed us over.
Okay.
But they don't want to go down that route for whatever reason. Like,
No.
let's just be Kevin all the time.
Yeah, that's true, right? Instead of doing a DQ finish, they kind of did the clean finish instead with Kevin on his back. But that's kind of more painful for the Kevin Owens character to have to take that because Cody stopped him from getting the victory. You know? It's almost more of an affront to Kevin Owens. He had to take that super kick and get pinned because he wasn't able to win because Cody stopped the ref.
Well, they had the push and shoving after the match, right? He even pushed Randy, Kevin.
Yeah.
But then they made peace in the end.
Yeah. But you know it's not going to last, that piece.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, War Games will be interesting if that happens. That the setup like you're suggesting, that could be very intriguing. But that means Randy gets 2 War Game matches in a row. Impressive.
Why not?
I mean, it's almost like going to become his match almost in a sense.
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. Bayley beat Naomi tonight to get a title shot at Nia Jax at Bad Blood. So Bayley earning a title shot tonight on SmackDown, and Carmelo Hayes getting a win over Andrade. Pretty uneventful SmackDown. Are we missing anything? Did anything else happen on this show?
They announced a dumpster match, right?
They announced a dumpster match for next week. Chelsea Green versus Michin. Oh, Michin wrestled Piper Niven and beat her.
That happened, yes.
Yes. I saw a picture this week that Michin posted, I knew that Michin was married to Keith Lee, right?
That's correct.
But did you know that Michin's sister is dating or engaged or something with Big E?
No, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah, I had no idea. Now that's a formidable family right there. You sit around a dinner table, you got Michin and her sister, and then you got Keith Lee and Big E. I mean, those are some big dudes. Some beasts. So, cool. Cool family. You know what I mean?
Hopefully we'll see at least one of them wrestle again.
Yeah, what's up with Keith Lee?
I don't know. I'm guessing it's some sort of health issue, possibly.
Is that it? He's still technically in AEW, right?
I believe so.
Huh.
But it's been a while. Like, remember, he's supposed to be at World's End against Swerve, and it never happened, and we haven't seen him since.
Strange. Here's a picture I was talking about that I saw. This is the family, and she captioned it "Family." Mia Yim official. There she is with her husband Keith Lee, and there's her sister with Big E. Look at them dressing alike. Look at them matching outfits. Adorable. I'm happy for Big E. I'm happy that Big E has found love. What a
You
nice
see a bunch
man.
of couples do that, right? In WWE, they do the whole matching thing. Like, didn't like Becky and Seth do that? And like, I think Montez and
Montez and
do that too?
Bianca, they seem to match every outfit they ever wear. It's very strange.
Wow.
It's a little much. It's a little much. Live in the gimmick, brother. Live in that gimmick. Yikes. Okay, well, that's what's going on in the WWE, John. Coming up next week on SmackDown, you got Chelsea Green versus Michin in the dumpster match. The Gorillas of Destiny, the DIY, and the Street Profits in a triple threat ladder match for the tag titles. And in the return of the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, which is nice. Glad to see AJ back. I love that guy.
Yeah, I think we just got a kind of a crummy week this week, sadly, but next week seems like it's going to be very good.
Yeah, next week in Nashville, Tennessee, the night before Bad Blood in Atlanta. We also learned that Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair will be hosting Bad Blood, and they promise some VIP guests.
Yippee. I'm not really looking forward to that whatsoever.
They'll have some Atlanta celebrities there, and they'll talk to them, and that'll be part of the show. Could be good. Maybe we'll see Ludacris. I bet we'll see Ludacris.
Who's the guy that Cody's with? Like in
Metro
the,
Boomin.
So it'll probably be him, I'm going to guess.
Mm-hmm. Metro Boomin wants some more.
Well, I don't think we want any more.
I don't know why. He does.
He isn't at one of the parties, is he? Or
He might have been.
he might have been. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, all those guys in the rap game, you know, things happen, man. It's rap music. I mean, come on. The embassy about to get raided too. It's only a matter of time. That's what they say, anyways.
Let's not forget that did he host Raw one time?
Yeah.
So how many people in WWE have been to the parties?
I mean, there was that Vince tweet. It's like, partying with P. Diddy, always a great time. Vince and P. Diddy like arm in arm. The caption is, partying with P. Diddy. I love it. That's his tweet. What? Knowing what we know about Vince and Diddy at this point, you go, what was that party? What was that like? What do you make of the rumors involving Lucha Bros possibly going to WWE? I say good. They need a boost to their tag team division. Good for the Lucha Bros for cashing in on their fame. Good for WWE for signing a good tag team. hopefully they give him a nice push and we see them have great matches in WWE. I think it's great. I think they did all they could do in AEW, and it was time to move on. I think it works for AEW. I don't think there's that much you could do with them anymore in AEW. You know, they've had all their matches. They've wrestled everybody. They could have stayed, but I don't know if they would have done anything innovative anymore in AEW. I think there's a lot of fresh matchups in WWE. It's a fresh new landscape. If WWE is going to do right by them, good move. Rey Fenix and Pentagon are fantastic wrestlers. I'm happy to see them go to WWE. Can't wait to see them debut. I heard that they signed. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see them.
Well, that's the controversy now, right? Is apparently the weight, because again, this is the rumor and speculation, is that they aren't getting out of their AEW deals, or at least Rey Fenix isn't right away because of all the injury time. So he's gonna have to wait until his contract expires a little bit longer.
Oh, really? So he's not under contract at WWE?
Not yet.
But he will.
I know you had a big. Oh yeah, I think it's almost like gonna happen for sure. But
if he's still
it's
under
not
contract to
happening right
AEW and the plan is for him to go sign to WWE, isn't that contract tampering from WWE?
I mean, you got to prove it though. That's the thing too. Like that they had any talks with him, whatsoever. Like if he just says like, "Oh, I'm not going to sign," and that's it. Like, I mean, clearly they've had talks because they were on television, then they were dropped from television and packed. He sees something happen apart. But like you said, like it's better for probably everyone involved that what's happened. They move on, and they'll be making money. That's not the problem here. So they just have to wait.
I say good for them. Good for them. Thanks for the question, Angelo. AEW Grand Slam went down this week. Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness in the opener. Had a hell of a match. Bryan getting the win over his longtime rival. Great to see these two guys have a match against each other on this big stage in what is going to be, the final few matches of Bryan's full-time in-ring career. It seems like he's winding down his wrestling career, and it's nice that they got to have one more match against each other. Longtime friends, partners, opponents. It was nice. It was nice to watch. It was a good match. Bryan got the win. It was what it was. It was a match for those two guys in the ring. I think the fans enjoyed it. Good to see. Good to see Bryan back. Bryan getting a win. Bryan getting a little revenge as the show closed as well. But Bryan and Nigel, John, I know you liked it. Hell of a match. Very fun.
Yeah, I thought it was the best match on the show. I mean, it's usually what happens, right? It's usually either the first match, which feels like the main event, or the main event is the best match on the show. And this is what's happened again, where the first match to me, was the best thing I saw. I mean, it started off pretty hot when you think about it. When Bryan came out, there was a huge reaction. I mean, Final Countdown, that's supposed to be saved for pay-per-views, so you could tell the crowd was really hot for that when he finally came out. It took a while for him to come out because he's a bit slow now these days, but he finally came out and finally had a match. And, Nigel, man, to me, like, that's incredible how good he was. Like, he hasn't wrestled in, like, how many years?
Mm-hmm.
And have that good of a match? Like, that's extremely difficult. And, Bryan deserves a lot of credit for being in that match, too, but a lot of credit to Nigel, because it's not easy just to pick it up like that and to be that good that quick.
Yeah, Nigel looked in great shape, too. Match was good, man. It was really good. Bryan got the win.
JR there as well. It added to it as well. It felt like a huge main event, even though it was the first match.
It was nice to have JR on commentary for the whole show. I enjoyed that. Felt like a bigger deal.
Yeah. Well, I wish we'd have more often, but, I think it's only going to be saved for the big things like Grand Slam is.
I didn't like the post-match thing where Christian came out and was like threatening to sign his instant title shot contract and wrestle Bryan right there, but then Kip Sabian stole his pen and ran off, and then Christian chased away. Like, what the hell was that, Kip Sabian? Like, what? That
Well,
sucked.
I think that's to explain why Christian won't be cashing in a sense, right? Because this whole thing I think he's going to wrestle Kip probably at the next pay-per-view. So he has to get through that if he wants to finally become the champion. So
What?
yeah, well, that's what's pretty much going to happen, I think.
Is it wrestle Kip?
Yeah, I
Kip.
think that's probably going to happen, yeah.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Hook beat Roderick Strong and then decided to retire the FTW title and then gave it to his dad, and Taz seemed emotional. It was a nice little moment, and I was happy because we don't need the FTW title in AEW anymore. They got enough belts. It's enough. Let's retire a couple more while we're at it.
Well, I think they have 3 other mid-card titles. I think 3 mid-card titles is enough. When they had 4 mid-card titles, it was like, that's a little too much. 3, I think, is the max you should have, so I think they're good with 3.
The AEW International Champion Will Ospreay teamed up with Kyle Fletcher to take on the Tag Team Champion Young Bucks. The Bucks wound up winning. The match was fantastic. Fantastic match. I thought, I'm a huge Danielson fan, but this was my favorite match on the show. This was match of the night for me. This was incredible stuff. Seeing Ospreay and Fletcher team together, how they worked together, how they worked, with the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks really on their game. This match was a really good reminder of what the Young Bucks are capable of at the very highest level. In a big-time match against big-time opponents, they can do some crazy stuff. They are magic in there. They're so smooth. And Will Ospreay, he is maybe the best in-ring talent today. And every time he wrestles, you're just amazed at the things he's able to do. And I'll tell you, Kyle Fletcher is pretty damn good, too. He is pretty good, this guy.
Yeah.
He gets better and better. He's got a little attitude now. I really like Kyle Fletcher. He's like Ospreay Jr. It's like when they don't have Ospreay, they just throw Fletcher out there. He's like bootleg Ospreay. And he's pretty close. Like, he's not quite as good as Ospreay, but nobody is. But he's like, similar, which is pretty good. And they worked very well against the Young Bucks. I thought that match was incredible. Like, I thought Moxley and Darby had a good match. I thought Bryan and Nigel had a good match. But this tag team title match was something else. My favorite match on the card for sure. It's great.
I thought there was a lot of good sequences, a lot of good back and forth. I just felt it was a little too long. And I felt like they peaked, and the match just kept going. So I thought they had the people. They lost the people a bit. They got them back again. They lost them. They have them a couple times, actually. And I get it. It's a big match. It's going to happen. You're going to have matches like that. But I felt like you had the people, and they do a lot of crazy false finishes, which is great. But I think maybe they had one too many.
I don't know. I think big-time matches get a lot of false finishes. Angelo Contagonis says the best part of Grand Slam was the match for the tag titles. I agree with you, Dave. There you go. Angelo agreeing with me. And I'm looking at some results here. I'm seeing the results on Bleacher Report, and they had this match graded the highest. They gave this one an A-. Everything else was in the B's. So a lot of people agreeing with me, John, and liking this tag title match. Not to say that I'm correct. Just to say that I may be with the majority of wrestling fans. You may be in the minority to not have given this one the match of the night. because it seems like most wrestling fans were calling the Young Bucks win over Ospreay and Fletcher the match of the night Wednesday for Grand Slam. Not saying that they're correct, John, and you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, seems like that's the majority opinion that I also have fallen under. Angelo agreeing with me, and now I'm seeing some ratings where it seems to be the highest rated match from all the people rating matches. Doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying.
Well, it's all opinions, right? It's like people had told us, or there was opinions out there that Kenny Omega is better than Bret Hart. Like Bryan Danielson thinks that. And that's cool that he thinks that. That's he
nice.
Wrestled Kenny, but he never wrestled Bret. So you got to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah, it's nice of Bryan to say that. It's not true, Kenny's. I think Bryan said Kenny's the best Canadian wrestler of all time, and no, he's not. Bret is.
But I can understand from the wrestlers that he wrestled.
Yeah, okay.
I get that. But all time, not so much.
Okay, how about this? How about this, John? Here's a tough question. It's a very tough question. Okay, are you ready?
All right.
I said, are you... No, I'm not. You ready? No, I'm not doing that.
Hope not.
Sorry, just when I said, are you ready? It's a wrestling show, John. I have to, add some gimmick to it once in a while. Okay, here's a question. Who is a better wrestler? Okay, who do you think was a better wrestler? Taking away everything outside of the ring. Kenny Omega, Canadian wrestler. Kenny Omega or Chris Benoit?
Who was a better wrestler in the ring?
Yeah, who's a better, just say all-around performer or pro wrestler. Just performer.
I'd have to say Benoit.
Yeah, me too. Like, when Bryan says Kenny is the best Canadian wrestler of all time, I go, I mean, he's very good. He's one of the best, but I don't think he's top 3. He's not in my top 3. He might be in my top 5. But, it's tough. Bret's up there, obviously, as number 1. I'd have to put Chris Jericho in there as number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Owen Hart was pretty damn good, too. I'd say Benoit. And then at number 5, I don't know. It's tough to put Benoit in there, but, Edge is there. Christian exists. These are all Canadian men. You know what I'm saying? I go, whoa. Is Kenny in my top 5? I'm not sure. For Bryan to say that Kenny is the best Canadian wrestler of all time, I think it was a bit of a reach because, that's his opinion, and I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying I don't agree. I disagree. As a Canadian wrestling fan and a Canadian wrestling historian, I feel like there are better, and it's not just Bret. Kenny is great. I think he's in the top 10 all time, which is impressive because Canada produces the best wrestlers ever. All our wrestlers are better. We make the best ones. But I'd put Chris Jericho over Kenny Omega. Based on his career, longevity, total package of a pro wrestler, promos and everything, I think you'd have to rank Jericho above. Jericho has had an amazing career. Amazing.
Well, I think you just have to look at what Jericho has accomplished in wrestling and what he's helped wrestling become, too, as well. I mean, if you think about what AEW is, a lot of that is because of Chris Jericho. I mean, Kenny obviously will take a lot of that, too, but Jericho with the star power alone that helped make AEW into something. And, of course, the matches. Countless matches, over the years. And still to this day, you can say maybe he's not as good as he used to be, but still, he can put on good matches. I still enjoy a lot of what Jericho does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the body of work, the Ray matches, the Shawn matches,
He's
Match
had
with
some
Benoit.
classics. Benoit, yeah, he's had some classics. Christian, a
Yeah.
lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff in Jericho's career. So, yeah, for a lot of those reasons, I would have to put Jericho above Kenny on that list. Not to say that I think Kenny is not good. Like, I think he's top 10 all-time Canadian wrestler. But when Brian said he's the best, it made me, think and go, no, he's definitely not the best. Is he the second best? Because Brett obviously goes above everybody. But I go, well, is he after Brett? And I go, meh. Start thinking about the guys, and I think, no. Was he after that guy? Nah. What about Jericho? What about Benoit? What about Edge? What about Christian? What about Johnny North? You know what I mean? It's tough.
Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens. I'd put Kenny over Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Okay, I get that. Kevin's tough though. I don't know. That's a toughie.
Body of work, man. I don't know. Kenny has had some crazy matches. As a professional wrestler inside the ropes, Kevin is great. I think Kenny, for me, is a little better. Yeah, I prefer his style. It's a little bit more wrestling-based, high impact. And Kevin's style, especially in the WWE, has been, a lot of brawling and then stuntman stuff.
It hasn't been bad though. Like it's been like top quality brawling and stuntman stuff.
Yes, of course. But I like what Kenny does. I like his style better.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
It's all preferences. Again, it's not to say that I'm right and other people are wrong. It's all a preference. You can't rank them. There are no stats that are real. It's an art form. Darby Allin losing to Jon Moxley this week. Jon Moxley getting the win. And then earning the shot. Taking the shot away from Darby. Darby doesn't have a title shot anymore. It's Moxley's now. And Moxley will wrestle Bryan at Wrestle Dream on October the 12th in Tacoma, Washington. Moxley wins in the main event of Dynamite. And then Bryan went after him.
Was a tie.
Yeah, with a tie. Tried to choke him out. And there was a whole thing. Bryan said he was going to kick Moxley's fucking head in.
Well, he's failed to do so the first two times they wrestled in AEW, so we'll see if this is the Bryan revenge tour or it all comes to an end October 12th. I mean, it kind of makes sense for it to end October 12th, I think.
Too soon.
I mean, if you need neck surgery, it's never too soon.
Too soon. He's going to beat Moxley. He's got to. He can't end his career on Jon Moxley. That's ridiculous. I don't want to see it.
We'll wait and see. I mean, a couple weeks away.
That's
It'll be
right.
fun.
Also, Prince Nana cut a promo, started talking about Swerve, but was interrupted by MVP. MVP now in AEW. I didn't even know he wasn't with WWE anymore, but he's in AEW now. And he wants to be Swerve's manager, apparently, and thinks Nana's doing a poor job, and he thinks he can be Swerve's new manager, which seems like it's going to happen. Usually when a guy shows up and is like, I'm going to be the new manager of Swerve, I think Swerve's going to show up and decide he's going to be with MVP.
I don't know about that. I think
No?
MVP already has somebody. Like, I think Swerve's going to say no. And Swerve's going to be like, or no, MVP's going to be like, I knew you'd say something like that. So this is what happens when you say no. And then I could see Bobby Lashley showing up.
Bobby Lashley with MVP. Okay, maybe. Let me ask you this. What was it like when MVP saw Chris Jericho backstage?
You know, it's business. It's not the friendship business, you know.
They don't like each other.
I mean, there's always people that don't like each other, you know?
Jericho fought him at a hotel, didn't he?
Or something happened in an elevator or something. I don't know the details of that, but yeah, something happened. There was an incident.
Like a couple years ago. They fought.
Yeah.
They had a fight. They weren't even in the same company. MVP said something about Jericho online, and Jericho called him a jobber, and they fought. And MVP, I think, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I think Jericho would be fucked.
Well, it's not a shock to me that people in wrestling don't like each other, but they still work together regardless. So as we saw what happened with Brett and Sean, sometimes it doesn't work out very well. As we saw what happened with Punk and the Elite, doesn't work out very well sometimes, but you try to make it work.
It's just interesting to me that given all the problems, all the fights backstage in AEW, that they would bring in a guy like MVP who has had a fight with one of their top guys, Chris Jericho. I mean, maybe they squashed it. It's probably all fine now, you know? But, yeah, it's cool. Good to see MVP in AEW. I think he'll be good. He's a good manager. Could be useful for them.
It got people talking. That was probably the most posted clip that I saw on X, was just MVP showing up. So
yeah, it was a big highlight of the show for sure. For AEW's Grand Slam. Next week on the show, Johnny North, we're going to be previewing WWE's Bad Blood. Before we go, though, when can people see you in the ring next?
So tomorrow, or actually a couple hours from now, I'll be at John Abbott, Saturday night, wrestling. And then Sunday, I'll be for Torch Chamber in Laval at 1000 Boulevard d'Avenir, close to Metro Montmorency. Bell time is 4 p.m. And it's pretty cool because our good friend AJ will be there, Anthony Delasio. So you'll probably get a chance to possibly see it one day. I think he likes to record stuff, so
yeah,
it'll be pretty cool.
Okay. So there it is. Johnny North wrestling twice this weekend. Tomorrow where?
At John Abbott College.
Okay. And then Sunday in Laval. So more info on Twitter at North Genesis? On Instagram at Genesis Johnny North. Yeah.
All there.
All right. Go there for all the info. I'll be back Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Ringside Report MMA, when we will be previewing UFC 307 live in Salt Lake City. That'll be fun. Alex Pereira taking on Khalil Roundtree for the UFC light heavyweight title, main event of that one. We'll preview that and more next week on Ringside Report MMA. Until then, thank you everybody for watching. Shout out to all the members I see in the chat tonight. Angelo Contagonis, supporting over at join.ringsidereport.net. Jason Pete, CSL Lorne, and everybody checking in around the world watching the Ringside Report Network.
Thanks for sticking with us to the end. We would really appreciate it if you could help us spread the word.
You know the drill. Hit that subscribe button, flip those notification switches.
We are an audience-supported network, so consider becoming a recurring supporter at membership.ringsidereport.net. Check out our website at ringsidereport.net. Hope to see you again next